Okay, so I've finished up welding the bottom of each one of these joints of the cross members to the main tubes down both sides. So this is destined to be the bottom of the chassis that will face the ground when the trailer project is complete. And just had to flip it over to do this work. I did want to make a note. I spoke earlier about how I knew the sawhorses would support all this material because I had it all sitting up here before it was welded to just test the sawhorses. But I looked up the per foot weight of these materials, and the total is about 150 pounds. So it's really not that heavy. The 1x2 by 1/8 wall tubing weighs about 2 1/4 per foot. Right now there's a total of 60 feet of the 1x2 tubing, and then the 2x2 tubing weighs a little bit more, just a tad over 3 pounds per foot. There's only 5 feet of it, so that's about 15 pounds. And then the other 60 feet of 1x2 tubing totals 135 pounds. So 150 pounds, really not bad. And when you consider how much strength you get from steel, I mean, there's really only two ways to construct a trailer, either steel or aluminum. And I can't really weld aluminum without changing out a lot of my equipment. So steel is it, and it's pretty typical for most of these projects, whether they're DIY or commercially produced, or people that use utility trailers, commercially produced utility trailers, and convert them to campers. There's quite a few people using like the Harbor Freight trailer or the Ironton trailer, which is a version of very similar to the Harbor Freight trailer, just sold by Northern Tool. Those trailers are probably a lot lighter than what I'll build because they incorporate much less steel. They're designed to be shippable, and they fold up. They also assemble with bolts. So not in the same class as a fully welded trailer, in my opinion. But anyway, I don't think it's 150 pounds for this assembly is too heavy at all. The tongue is going to be made of 2x3 rectangular tubing, 3/16 wall. I don't know what the per foot weight of that stuff is, but when I took it out of my truck and brought it in my garage, I can tell you it's pretty substantial on a per foot basis, but there won't be a huge amount of it in this project. So I think the tires, wheels, suspension bits, the brake hub assemblies, that stuff will probably weigh close to what the steel in the chassis and tongue weighs. That would be my guess. And that's fine because that's all below the center of gravity. If you think about it, all that weight will be below the center of gravity of the trailer, or at least the trailer by itself, not once it has the camper on it. So I think it'll be, somewhere in the neighborhood of around 400 pounds, 500 pounds would be my guess. Just the trailer skeleton itself without any camper on it would be around 400 to 500 pounds. And my goal is to bring this in well under 2,000 pounds. I'll be towing it primarily with a 2001 Jeep Cherokee. That's the old boxy style Cherokee, the XJ. And it's rated to tow 5,000 pounds. But, the less the better, especially for an off-road vehicle or an off-road trailer being towed off-road. The lighter the better. But from what I've seen of other people's projects and the commercial trailers, under 2,000 is a very realistic goal. And I will be using steel to frame out the camper box itself, but I'll be using a thinner wall tubing for that than this 1/8 wall stuff. And pound for pound, steel is much stronger than wood, so I can use relatively fewer framing elements and get equal or superior strength than if it was framed in wood. But that'll all be documented via these videos, so you can see it happen and decide for yourself whether you think I should have used wood or if using steel was a good idea. But since I've learned to weld for the last few years and have seen how the results I'm capable of producing, even as an amateur welder, my philosophy has become, why build with wood when you can use steel whenever possible? So my first choice of material would normally be steel unless there's a specific reason to use wood. So I would default to steel for building most things just because of its strength, longevity, and like I said, the strength to weight ratio. You can usually make a lighter assembly out of steel and have it come out far stronger than the same solution framed with wood. So that's where we're at. So the next step is to stand this up on one of the long tubes and for me to weld out the remaining joints between these tubes, between the cross members and the long rails. And as I mentioned, I'm going to do that in the horizontal position instead of the vertical position, which would be the case if I had to do it on these sawhorses. So I'll be doing it on the ground or maybe on a low height support. So we'll see what happens next, and I'll come back when I have this thing stood up and ready to be welded out. Here I have the chassis assembly tipped up on its edge and ready to be welded along the base rail where each cross member joins into the base rail. So as you can see here, I have my stool. So this is perfect sitting height for me to weld it out. So much more comfortable, and I'm more assured of getting quality welds if I'm comfortable and it's not a stretch or a tight squeeze to weld because I'm bent over and welding right off the floor. So this will work out much better. Again, this thing weighs 150 pounds, so it's not too bad to have it stood up like this on these two stands. And I do have it supported at the back by an equipment stand I have built of steel also, and I just have it clamped to that with a C-clamp. Got these boxes down here just to provide some ballast around that stand to keep it from sliding and rolling out. Just added assurance. So time to get this welded out. First few welds starting to go on to the base rail. Taking my time to make sure I don't put too much heat into the project at one time. And I just use the auto set on the Miller Matic 211. You can see here I'm dialed for 1/8 inch steel at the upper end of the 1/8 inch range, and I'm using 0.030 wire. So the machine takes care of the wire speed and voltage settings automatically. I've had really good luck just using auto set. I know a lot of purists cringe at that idea, but again, I'm not a pro. I'm just having fun doing this, and messing around with variables like this is not really interesting to me, but getting good repeatable results is. So it works for me. And just as an aside, when I was shooting this video, I noticed my gas selection was incorrect. So I was dialed onto C100 here, or 100% carbon dioxide for shielding gas, and I'm actually using 75 carbon dioxide, 25% argon, which is my understanding is more optimal, a little more expensive. So I've been welding with the wrong shielding setting here. I don't know if it makes that much difference, but I've corrected that.